All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys 4 rules and lessons and tips from my experience of hiring 100 plus different employees and onboarding these people. So whether you're looking to hire your first employee ever, whether you're looking to hire your first new role, maybe you're hiring an acquisition manager for the first time, maybe you're hiring a dispo admin, or maybe you're hiring like your 3rd or 4th acquisition manager. Here are some tips and lessons that I've had and taken over the years of hiring a bunch of people successfully and even more people unsuccessfully. So, look, rule number 1 is you cannot ignore the red flags. Basically, on this rule, there's a few red flags that you have to determine for yourself and in your business for what you're going to tolerate, right? Because your team does not fall to the level at which you expect, they fall to the level at which you accept, right? So, whatever level of acceptance from performance, from consistency, from whatever training, execution, whatever that is for you, that's going to be the level that they fall to. So if you allow someone to show up late to meetings, if you allow them to have their Zoom camera off, you allow them to make excuses, if you allow them to not follow the process, you allow them to not be coachable, whatever it is, then that's going to be what you get. And so you have to instill the level of expectation that you accept, right? And so generally these show themselves in what I call red flags, right? So anytime I hire someone, like for example, this happened recently. We hired a guy, an acquisition manager, and for the first meeting, he was getting on board. We told him on Thursday, you're going to have a 9 o'clock meeting, blah, 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 to do onboarding. He texted at, what time was it? Like 30 minutes after the meeting started or something like that, and said, hey, like I thought the meeting was at 10 and I can't make it. So he woke up one at 9:30 on a Monday. And we were just like, yeah, dude, like we're just gonna fire this guy. A lot of people give this dude the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, he slept in, he didn't set an alarm, whatever. But to my point is if he's not gonna have the respect and the decency to put it on his calendar to respect his time, 1, he's not organized. 2, personally, I don't want someone on my team who I'm relying on to put all my revenue up on the board who wakes up at 10 o'clock on a Monday. It just doesn't seem like that's gonna be the right culture fit. Just from an activity perspective, like, right, what do great people do? Great people wake up on a Monday morning at 7, 8 o'clock and they start their day, right? It's not that they're waking up everyone's not waking up at 4 o'clock. You don't need to expect that. But to at least know you're starting a new job, and, for me, if I was starting a new job, I'd be there fucking early. So my point is if someone does something that's a red flag right away, we're firing them immediately. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of everyone on my team's time. So we don't tolerate it. However, as people get more comfortable in your business, a month in, 2 weeks in, 2 months in, these types of things can start to show themselves. And these are small details, and these might be bigger ones. I just put a couple of an example right here. But you have to correct those via leadership immediately. If someone shows up late to a meeting, what were you doing? Like it took you why are you 5 minutes late? We need to be on time. If someone doesn't respond very fast to me texting them or answer my phone call, if someone doesn't answer my phone call during working hours, I'm going to be pissed. However, if someone doesn't text me back within a couple minutes, I'm also going to be like, if I know that they're on calls, like it's going to be different, right? But if I know they're not on calls, like I'm going to also be like, yo, what the heck? Like, what are you doing? So learn the red flags, write them out for, basically say like, hey, if I was to start a job, what would what things would probably get me fired in the first month of working, right? What things would get me fired? And that's how you're gonna create your red flag list. Rule number 2 is these people you hire are week to week. What does that mean? Everyone is week to week. They have to earn their job every single week. There's not like I hired this person, I'm gonna let them work out for 3 to 6 months. Obviously, if you have a big company, you're doing millions and millions of dollars a year, probably arguably closer to $5 to $10 million per year, probably closer to 10, is they have a little bit more bandwidth and cash and ability to float things. However, you should still be making this person earn their job week to week, right? And so it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a performing sales rep week 1, right? That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is they're doing the things that are required from a top 1% type of person, and they're going to execute on that level, right? So they're going to be at my level or above on their execution. And that's just the expectation, right? And so that could mean that they are learning and implementing new things very quickly, and they're surprising me they're taking initiative outside of the realm of responsibility, and they're just going to do things that they, weren't even asked to do. Or they're just doing their job to a really high degree and they're getting better each week, but they're putting in the work. My point is, like, for the first 2 to 3 months, everyone's earning their job on a weekly basis. It's not something that I tell them, right? It's not something I'm telling them when I hire them. It's just something that I'm mentally checking through when I'm ramping someone up to speed. So that is one of the most important things, is because if someone's just like not cutting it, then obviously on a weekly basis, when I review their performance, I need to think about, okay, what are they doing good? What are they doing bad? What do they need help with? How can I help them be better? And then I'm going to go and be a good leader, and which goes down to rule 3, coaching, mentorship, accountability. And I'm going to help them correct that behavior. And I'm going to want to see improvement on those places, right? So that rolls into the next piece, where you have to push high levels of performance early on to set the culture. And so what this means is that realistically, anytime someone works for me, and this could be slightly toxic, I could see how people could think this, I'm going to basically accept only the best work and always have some kind of feedback on how they can do better, because they're just starting the job. No one comes out of the box like 100% ready to go, right? Obviously, people that you hire, if you're doing a good job, should have more, they should be like 90% there or 85, but no one's 100%. They don't know how your business works. They don't understand you. They don't understand your culture fully, right? So you have to get them set into that culture. And so for me, obviously, I'm going to be giving compliments on hard work, extra time put in, et cetera, et cetera. However, I'm going to also be giving a lot of feedback. And it's very important to let them know that, hey, like, we expect a very high level of work here, and there's nothing else that's in between, right? We're not accepting like mediocre work. We are accepting the best work, and that's it. And then the third piece, the rule number 2, is do not give control too fast. So do not give control too fast. What I mean by this, and I'll tell you in a very brief story, is there was this happens like a million times a day probably, but one of the companies that I work with very closely, they hired an acquisitions guy. No real estate experience, no sales experience, amazing culture fit, and actually a great salesperson. And what they did is, like, one weekend, they just said, hey, here's the reins to the ship. Go and do as you need to get contracts. And I mean, like, yes, you have to give some responsibility and give some ownership to see success and see growth in people. However, if you just give that's your only acquisition manager, it's your way of creating revenue, and you just give it to them without like really being ingrained to that person, again, you're going to really, really, really regret that decision. I promise you. That acquisition manager role specifically, and sales in general, takes time to develop. And it might be a 3 or 6 month play. You're not going to be out of the day-to-day immediately. That's just an impossible expectation. Sorry. Rule number 3 is coaching, mentorship, and accountability. So you're a coach, you're a mentor, and you're a leader or someone who holds them accountable to doing excellent work. So basically, to my opinion, coaching is like teaching them how to do better, how to do the role right, about the company, about the avatar, whatever. And mentorship is about guiding them through life, guiding them through decision-making, guiding them through mistakes that you've made, and through the business, because you have more wisdom than this person. And the accountability is making sure that they're committing to the things that they say they're going to commit to. So, like I said earlier, no one comes out of the box 100% ready to go. Everyone has their own varying degrees of where they're at. And that also means how much work you have to put in, right? So if you hire someone who, perfect culture fit but no skills, it's going to take you a lot more time to ramp them up. However, when that person is ramped up, they're going to be really good and they're going to be the right person, right? However, another thing is, like, if you hire based on experience and expertise but not culture fit, well, that's going to also be an uphill battle as well, because you're going to have to fit them into your culture, which doesn't always really work, right? People don't really want to change who they are to fit into your business. And so you have to hire people who fit into your business and train them up. And then getting better at hiring is picking the person who's closer to being ready to go. And also having a better opportunity for those people. It's like, I talked to a guy, he's like, I want a COO. I'm like, how much are you doing a month? He's like, $40K a month. I'm like, no COO is going to come work for you for $40K a month who's worth anything, who's worth a darn, right? He might be the best culture fit. He might be able to learn it, and you're gambling on that. And then that's how you can get it for cheap. However, if you want to actually get like a good operator, you need to be doing like actual numbers in your business in order to be able to afford a good operations manager. It's not really even a COO at that point. They just are overseeing the operations and making sure the day-to-day is running. And so my point is, you have to think about how much money can this person make and how much am I willing to pay and what kind of person is that going to get me? And then, if you have a commission-only job and that person's only going to make $5K a month, let's really be honest with ourselves. Who are we going to attract to the business to make $5K a month? What type of person, right? It's going to have to be a college kid who has the right mentality and culture fit, and therefore they're not going to work right away. So think about who you're hiring, how much you can pay, what that avatar looks like. Another thing is, throughout the coaching, mentorship, accountability process, is you have to have a high frequency of one-on-one meetings early on into the process. So for the first week or two, I'm meeting once or twice every day with this individual, depending on what all is going on, what their job is, how fast-paced it is, etc. And so that allows me to have a good pulse on everything that they're doing, organize KPIs, issues they have, questions, whatever. They need to come to those meetings with questions and things that they have that are going on, because they're new and they don't really know anything, right? They don't know how your business works. So you have to teach them that, and that's why it's a lot of one-on-one time to get them ramped up. After a month or two, that's going to obviously die off and be way less. So, to give you a timeline, I just recently hired someone who I'd never hired before. New position, new role. It's called a media buyer. Basically, they help you run your ads, right? Your Facebook, YouTube, Google, all those different ads. And they decide the strategy. They press the buttons. They do a bunch of different things. But essentially, I hired this person, never knew how. I guess at this point, it's October 6th. So, oh gosh, when did I hire them? I don't know. Let's call it 6 weeks ago. Just now, as of last week, this person had the reins to make decisions on most any account without talking to me. However, there's still select accounts that have high enough spends where I'm I want this to make sure that I'm still watching this and I'm making every decision with you alongside of you, because they're spending 10, 15K a month. And so my point is, by doing that, I have a good pulse on the highest value accounts and the highest level accounts. So that way I can make sure they're still getting done the right way. Because the lower accounts, if you spend 3K a month, it's really quite easy to run if you have a good system, right? And you have good people. However, once you get up to 10, 15K, 20K a month, 30K a month, you need some more. It's a lot more complicated is the best way to describe it. And it takes a lot more strategy and effort. So point is yes, initially it was all decisions we made together, and then you start making decisions on the lower, easier ones, and then we still make the decisions on the harder ones together until I'm confident that you're able to make those decisions 100% on your own and you know what you're doing. It's the same thing. It takes time, right? It's probably going to be, realistically, for this person's fully autonomous, it's probably going to take 3 to 4 months, and that's just part of it, right? It's just the process. Another piece is being a mentor and a coach is to understand their why and their goals, because your job as a leader to get them to those goals. So if someone wants to, buy a house, or someone wants to get married, it's your responsibility as a leader to actually make those things happen. It's your responsibility. It's not anyone else's. You are the bridge to get them to their goal. Obviously, they need to do the work that's required, and you got to put that ownership of the effort, the strategy, the knowledge, the skills onto them. However, but you're giving them the opportunity to bridge that gap. And that's why you as a mentor, as a coach, as a leader, have to be able to give them the opportunity that's needed, hold them to it, and will guide them along the ways because you've done what they're trying to do. And the last one is ask before tell. So ask before tell is a very simple framework I use when I talk to anyone on my team. I'm not perfect. I don't do this every single time, but I'm probably 90%, 95% good at this. And someone brings me a problem, I always just ask them what they would do about it. How would they solve it? And most of the time, they have a pretty good solution. Sometimes their solution's not perfect, right? Sometimes their solution has some holes. And that's an opportunity for teaching, for coaching. And so in those opportunities and in those moments, I will tell them what I think. And then we'll talk about it, right? So I always tell them, what do you think about this? How would you do it? What are your thoughts? How does this change your plan? And what that does is it allows them to think autonomously. So they're coming to me with solutions. It's not going to be an immediate fix, but over a couple of weeks, by asking them their thoughts on it, they're just going to start to have confidence in their thoughts and then be more autonomous. Because they're like, me and Chandler are always on the same page. I'm not really worried about it. We're always on the same page. I know I can just do that. And obviously, we're looking at numbers and we're seeing what's happening. And if they make a mistake, that's fine. We can fix it and move on because we'll see it quickly. But it's not one of those things where they're just going to go out and do all the wrong stuff right away. There's some guardrails there, right? And so that's really, really important. I think something overall that I didn't put on here on rule 3 is having the ability to fix something right away. Because what I see happen way too much is someone hires someone, they don't really look after them for a couple months, 3 months, and then boom, now that person's just destroyed that part of the business because they have no idea what they're doing. And so the real caveat here is by frequency of contact with them, you're going to know what's going on and you're able to check in. Because my dad gave me the best quote probably ever. He's like, don't expect from what you don't inspect. So don't expect to get results from something you don't inspect. I think it's a very wise quote, because if you're not looking into what people are doing, they're just gonna be doing random ass stuff, right? We don't want that. We don't want people to do random stuff. Still to this day, you gotta check people's work all the time. I manage probably 7 or 8 people. I check everyone's work on a weekly basis. I'm just logging in, seeing what they're doing, making sure everything's correctly done. Just send them a screenshot if they did something wrong. Usually it's not much because they know that I'm looking, right? But knowing someone's looking over your work means you're going to take a little bit better care in it. If you knew no one was ever going to check your work, are you going to do it as well as you would do it if no one else was watching? Of course not, right? So knowing someone's watching is going to make you perform at a better level. And if you don't care, then you're just throwing culture fit. So my point is, make sure you're inspecting what you expect from, and you don't let something just roll away from you. Rule number 4. This is a big one, I think. A lot of people don't do this, myself included. It's a very, very big role. If you just had to fire or let go of someone today who's been with me for like 4 years. So not an ideal situation. However, that person was not going to be, it's just for me to get to the next phase of my life, in the next phase of my business, they weren't going to be the person that was going to catapult us there. And so, I wish I would have made the decision a while ago, but now that I did, I feel lighter. And so my point is, you have to be willing to fire the people who are on your team. Be willing to fire the person who you onboarded. And it's such a big role. It's like, if someone sucks, like the only thing holding you on to keeping them is either ego because you feel like you have a bigger team and you're cooler because you have a large team, or which I went through totally as well. I had a team of like 32 and trimmed it down to like 20, and that felt like a big ego hit, right? Or number 2 is you just feel like you're getting demoted, right? You're demoting yourself down to calling leads again. Look, you got to do what you got to do as a business owner to make money and keep putting deals and revenue and cash on the table. You got life. You got a life to live. You got expenses to pay. You got families to feed, right? And so the point is it's not taking a step back. It's really just learning from your mistakes to take 2 steps forward, right? Anytime I've taken 1 or 2 big leaps forward in my life, it's because I took 1 big leap back or a big risk, right? And so you got to be willing to do the same thing and also be willing to work harder, because hiring the wrong person is not a sunk cost, right? It's just a step forward, right? So when you make the wrong hire, it doesn't mean you did a bad job. It just means you made a mistake, which is great because then you get to learn from it and do better next time. And so I've hired a lot of the wrong people. I hire less now because I've hired so many people, and I think about it and I have a little bit more experience and wisdom to go through this process. However, when you hire someone, you got to expect that, hey, I remember, like, I'll tell you this is a better way to explain the story. Is we did 1.8 million in 2021. I was 22. Our team was like maybe 10 to 12 people. It was really good business, really profitable. Everything was great in the company. One of the best businesses to run around that price, that revenue range, is so simple and so chill, and so profitable. The thing that I realized is because my goal was to get that business to 10 million a year, and we didn't. That's just the truth. However, I remember sitting there and being like, the people we have on our team right now are not going to be the people who get us to the next level. I don't know. I had that weird intuition. And what happened was around $250K a month to $200K a month, so somewhere in that neighborhood, around 2.5 to 3 million, that range, we kept getting stuck because we had the wrong people on the team. The people who got us here were not going to get us to the next level, and that's just part of the process. So the people who got you to 10K a month, to 50K a month, that's not going to be what gets you to the next level, and you have to be willing to take a step back, take a step forward. So last thing I'll leave you with is selection fixes 80% of all performance problems. Leadership obviously fills in the gaps where people, you select the wrong person, they're not skilled, whatever. However, if you want to fix your main problems with your business, select better people and hire better people who are good and better at the job. That's my biggest takeaway from my career is so far. And again, I'm only 26, but I've been doing this for 6 years. And so my biggest takeaway is hire less people, but hire better. So I'm willing to pay someone a lot more because they're going to do the job way better. And I'm going to be able to get multiples on the output from them. And the management stress, dude, if you're managing a high performer, you just don't really have to manage them much. Just check in once a week, look at the numbers, go over everything, ask them what they got planned, and then relay strategy, changes for the business, and everything else will take place. High performers will get the job done at a way higher rate and way more successfully, and they take accountability for themselves. And you just have to remind them of that accountability. So that's what I'm going to leave you with. Hopefully this video was very helpful and allowed you to go and learn a lot more things about how to onboard and make sure your actual employees that you hire actually work out.